Today I'm going to share, I think, about what I'm going to call the large self. You know, people use this living large, that phrase, living large versus living small. There's a word that's been coming up, I think, for some reason in the last couple of talks, maybe the last couple of weeks. The word humility came up, so I just want to address it a little bit more. It's kind of an interesting thing, especially in a town like this, where you have lots of people into really profound, intense levels of spirituality. There's a lot of, the more you do something really amazing, you sell it, you talk loud about it, then that person's more spiritual or that technique is more spiritual. When in fact, it isn't the way it is at all. I mean, there's a difference. We all know that. There's a difference between being and doing. And the being is like, that's where that Zen, Taoism, Course in Miracles all say this, I need do nothing. What that means, and a lot of people, unfortunately, there's a lot of things done in spirituality that's for convenience. Not because it's actually right, but because it fits our little ego selves. So when people hear, I need do nothing, that's a great affirmation for people who are generally lazy. Lao Tzu said, I need do nothing. That's perfect, because I don't tend to like to do anything. And then they go, but my life just isn't working out, but I don't want to do anything about it because I'm so Taoist. And none of that's true. I need do nothing. It doesn't mean literally you trip because you didn't tie your shoes, because you need not tie your shoes. I need do nothing means, wow, I'm so connected, not arrogantly, but I feel so connected to the presence of God, it kind of guides me. So when it means, what it means, I need do nothing, it means the little I don't need to claw at things to make things happen. There's just this in the zone. Everyone in this room or watching or on the planet has had at least a moment in their lives when they were in the zone. Maybe one person only had it once, and maybe it was very, very fleeting for seconds. But some of us more and more learn to live that way. But even if you're on the spiritual path, be careful not to get caught in the doing more to be more spiritual. Instead, be more spiritual and do less. The doing, though, it still happens. I mean, it still happens. It still comes together. Countless numbers of times people have said, oh my God, I'm really in a fix. I'm moving suddenly. Now, if you're going to move households, you haven't done anything to prepare for it because you just aren't the type to be grounded enough, and you get yourself into these things. I don't think it's very nice for us to enable it by all running to your beck and call when you decided to make a change. But when somebody truly says, I'm going to fix, I didn't know this was going to happen, I'm going to be moving this week suddenly, or someone's passed away, or that person passes away. They leave a note for us and they say, can you ask Unity to help take care of my affairs? Great. We just soldier up, man. We don't say, well, we need do nothing. Your house will take care of itself. We soldier up. Do you have animals? Okay, we got to get somebody on that. You have clothing? We got somebody on. We give it to charities. We go in and we divide and conquer the situation. We go and we deal with it. Just like if there was a movie or play being done and you're a director of some kind and some previous director, they passed away tonight, someone's got to step in and do it. But it's easier when you know how to connect with spirit and say, what would you have me do? And then it all comes to us. I mean, in a really profound way. It's not always, oh my, okay, let's all meditate today and then it'll all take care of itself. The house won't ascend. The clothing won't ascend. It all needs picked up. So you go in there. We did that, just this weekend. We offered, we helped. You have board members that are, one's an accountant in their life and it's tax season. They had other things they could be doing. They showed up and they got to work. Other people, one's sick, we just went and we did the best we could with what we had. We showed up and started working at it. Let's make things happen. So much so it was kind of beautiful. The person that was kind of in charge of all the affairs, at the end of it all, I pulled up to make sure everything got picked up okay. And I saw them running around with their, like their head cut off, like what, running around all, frantic. And I said, what's going on? My phone's gone, well, let's look. And I said, okay. And he said, can you call it? Yeah, I'm calling it. It's not there, anywhere in the house or the yard. And I said, you know where it is? It went to the dump with all the stuff. You dropped it somewhere in one of the boxes. Oh, you're kidding. I know, I'm pretty sure. I can feel it, and that's where it is. So the stuff's all the way on its way to the dump. I called and got somebody to give me the number to the person. Hi, can you pull over and listen for this phone? And they found the phone. If I would have said, oh, I guess it's meant to be that it's gone to the dump. Stop that stuff. So, show up. Like, let's change what we can before you start accepting what you can't. Change what you can. Like, show up. And so there's this concept of living large. We talk louder. That's fake living large. Living large, have more. Because this world tells you, achieve, gain, have stuff. And the more you do that, the more fleeting it is. It's an illusion. So you're living large, founded on a lie. And so it's not going to last. The large shall fall, as it were. But there's something else most people into spirituality don't recognize. It's also fake to live small and seemingly ever so meek. Blessed are the meek, he said, not blessed are the weak. Meek means not sheepish and trampled on and victims. Meek means I'm clear. I'm simple. I'm being, and I need do nothing because I'm strong in my clarity. So a meek person doesn't become the victim of the person that talks louder, the falsely large people, stomping on the falsely weak, small people. True humility is strength. I mean, it's a power, and people don't understand it. They go, well, the weak, like who? Gandhi got shot, killed. Jesus, he didn't do so well at the end, did he? Crucifixion. Those meek people are not doing so well. You have no idea. The people like Mother Theresa were powerful to be able to go into plagues and especially not get sick. But even if they would have, they didn't care. That's strength, man. To try to shield yourself from all things and, because you're so scared and weak. Withdraw from intimacy because you have fears about intimacy. Withdraw from whatever else, even foods. That's weak, not meek. There's power in meek. The meek shall inherit the earth. It means that the more we understand who we are and the simplicity of our perfection, not simplicity as in small, simplicity, there's a clarity. And when we have that, the meek inherit the earth because we're so clear, the energy we're holding starts to spill over and change the energy on the planet. So we're not going to change the planet through politics or fighting or complaining, even though people say that's how you do it. It's not done that way. There's this power in our simplicity, in our clarity. So you can say, yeah, but Gandhi wasn't a victim. Gandhi or Martin Luther King died doing their work. And they knew there was a danger of that. So they still chose to do it, which means they were not victimized in being killed. Because they were saying, hey, if that's what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen, but I'm not going to stop the work. You don't think that's powerful? Some people can't even go outside when their horoscope says it's going to rain. To be able to say, I'm going to go do that speech, even though I'm hearing that I'm going to be killed. That's strength. And these guys, little Gandhi, he wasn't trying to look all strong and intense and loud and obnoxious. Clear. Jesus too. There were times they come to arrest him and he just told them, I'm not in the mood today. You think Jesus was weak, falsely meek, weak? No. He was truly meek, clear, and so simple. Simple meaning, I am as God created me. And when they say, don't you realize we have the power to kill you? He goes, you actually don't have any power other than that which I give you. Oh, you're talking to Romans leaders, man. These guys, they don't do that. You ever watch Ben-Hur? You ever watched movies like The Gladiator? The Romans are not like, oh, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. They're not like that. They had their job, their daily occupation was murder. And this simple little guy, Jesus, not today. Check back with me tomorrow. And they check back, and eventually he goes, yeah, today will be good. Nice day to die. You see? The swan song. It's like, great, but that's powerful. And Gandhi didn't say, oh my gosh, after all the niceness I gave to you people. He just said, Shanti, Shanti, as he falls to the ground, forgiving the person that shot him. That's powerful. You see? So we have to watch this tendency for the falsely large, and the falsely large is in our spiritual communities, and falsely small. The people that say things like, I need to be heard. I need you to see who I am. Why would God need to be heard? It isn't God shouting. You're compensating because you perceive yourself to be weak. Something taught you to be loud and obnoxious in a false, powerful way, and you don't realize it yet. But also in spirituality, there's falsely weak. There's falsely, kind of like it's still false, but we're going to look weak and small. We're going to call it meek and simple and innocent, but you're not. Because you're still having people trample on you in relationships and use you financially. That's not meek. Meek would be, I'm so clear, I decided this won't work anymore for me. Thank you, bye. Clear. It's not weak. So in the spiritual communities, you'll find people often playing out one of those two archetypes, not in the center, meek, but rather the falsely large and the falsely small. Look at me, I don't even talk very loud because I'm so spiritual. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What? I've come for some counseling. Tell me what's going on. Well, I don't really know. Well, great, you just spent $100. Thank you, bye. Speak up, show up. My partners, they just never get me. Well, so talk louder, like speak up. They probably couldn't hear you. Take responsibility. Sorry, man, but take responsibility. So the world is almost like 99% ego-based. So when you start saying, I decide I need to be heard, it's already the odds are that that's the ego talking. If you find humility, you're in the being, and then I don't need to be heard. I don't need to be seen. How could I not already feel that fullness? It doesn't make sense for part of me to stand up and go, I need you to give me something I don't have, because God can't perceive itself missing something. So we know immediately it's the ego. And tragically, when people do the falsely large, a lot of us become afraid to speak up against them because they're so loud. Some of us tragically do the falsely small and keep getting trampled on. But you don't know how to call people on that, whether it's you or people around you. The falsely small. Somebody comes to you and says, do you know what so-and-so did? They did this and that. Talk. And sometimes hold them, be with them, counsel them. But when you see it's an ongoing pattern, they don't want to hear your advice. They want to stay small and victim-like. You sometimes have to say, at the risk of them no longer speaking to you, you might have to say, in a loving, gentle way, I noticed this has happened before. It's interesting. This is a new year. We just started. This would be a great time for you to come out and kind of soldier up, like to stand up and, say it tactfully and encouragingly. And you might have them go, oh, no, that's okay. Maybe you walk away sometimes. Because if you enable, you're adding to the problem. Then, if you think it's spiritual to enable people's falsely large or falsely small selves, if you think that's spiritual here's the words we use. I just accept them as they are. You're not really accepting them as they are, because the real who they are is God, and the God part of them isn't doing what they're doing to you. So if you're going to accept them for who they are, do you mean they're spiritual who they are, or do you mean they're ego? And I'm warning you, anytime we accept people as they are based on their egoic self, there's a reason. I accept them who they are because if I say a word, they're going to trample on me, and I'm afraid of that. So I'm just going to pretend I'm accepting them unconditionally because I'm afraid of them. You follow what I just said? Or the opposite. I don't want to come across too harsh, and tell them, look, you're such a victim. Stand up and become stronger. I might make them cry. Our most of the time when we're trying to look like or act like we're being unconditionally loving and accepting of people, we're doing it for avoidance sake. We're trying to not bring something up because we're afraid of what it'll bring up in us. It might be convenient for you to have a good victim as a friend. Somebody that looks more miserable than you might be actually set up that way. I know it sounds harsh, man, but it's okay. I'm up here, not you. So, you know, I mean, just at least consider that what I'm saying could have truth to it. And I know it's not easy, but it's what Jesus taught, Krishna taught. It's what the mythologies are all about. Speak up. Speak up. Now, here's a quick story. I've shared this, but it's probably been a couple years maybe. But once upon a time, there's this little village. And in this village, there's a dragon that has come and burned up the village and destroyed everybody and everything time and again. The people survive and they just get by and they try to hide out. Because if they make a ruckus, if they have a party and stir up the energy of this thing, it'll just fly down and ruin everything. So these people live in fear is my point. This little village, they live in fear. Don't stir things. Don't say anything. Don't speak up. Don't question anything. And don't party because it'll hear us. So they all live in fear in this village. Well, at some point, there's a child that decides, I'm too curious. I got to go see this dragon to get a peek of it. It's been a while since it's come down and ruined the village and so on and so on. So it decides to scale the mountain, climbs up the mountain, gets to the top. It can hear it. The last couple of rocks, it's on the other side of these rocks. And the child gets up there and kind of peeks around the corner and sees the dragon, big, ferocious looking thing, as a dragon would be. And the dragon catches on, sees it. Hey, who are you? Oh, I'm sorry. I just couldn't resist. I wanted to see who you are. I've heard all these stories about you. I've never seen you, but I've heard all the stories that you're ferocious, that you're out to kill everybody, and so on and so on and so on. And it says, and they have this chat for a moment. And the boy says, the child says, boy or girl, the child says, okay, I'm going to leave and go back to the village now. Am I allowed or will you kill me? He says, you can go. The child says, okay. The child goes to leave and then says, by the way, what's your name? And the dragon says, well, people refer to me by many names, but most people just call me what might happen. So they're all living in fear of what might happen, not of this dragon's name, but people live in fear of what might happen. If I correct you because I don't like you or because my ego's flared up in some way, then I'm out of line. But I can be in my center and still give good advice to people. And it could be to step up and not be so scared all the time. But if you're afraid of what might happen if you talk to them about it, you're not living. That village was living in fear. They were never living. Don't talk too loud. Don't celebrate birthdays. Don't do anything. And people live like this all the time. Not just psychologically. Our organs are starved from chi, energy, and life force. Because we don't want to make it too obvious that we're doing well. People live like they say all the time, like as waiting for the other shoe to drop. People unconsciously are afraid of everything. I know this. If you show up with your friends, and let's say you just won the lottery, I can tell you this, some friends are going to be happy for you and some will not. They might go, oh, that's great. Grind. That's great that you won the lottery because I think I'm the one who bought you your first prosperity book and I still haven't won anything, They will resent it. But I'm serious. When someone has a relationship that goes kaput again, like for the 50th time this year, and you walk in with your soulmate. Hi, how's it going? Oh, someone just left me. Oh, honey, yes. Do you mind if I spend some time? Why don't we both do some processing for them? Let's do some soulmate counseling session with them. They're only going to irritate them because there's a chance that they're going to be triggered by what they don't have. So we live afraid to smile because someone else isn't in the mood for you smiling. I lived like that when I was a kid, man. I knew. If I depicted too much happiness, it was not going to go well. And there's a saying, we form habits and then habits form us. And I noticed at one point, coming home from school is, kind of cool, whatever was happening there. I never went to classes, but I still enjoyed, I didn't, I just hung out outside, but I still enjoyed the friendships and talking, and all that. So that for me, school was great because I didn't go. And so when I would leave school, I was in a fairly good mood. And I mean, viscerally, when I would walk down the street, because it was only 100, 200 yards, I think. But as I walked down the street, that final turn the curve to see my house, everything in me, guys, just went, I saw his car. Just like a lot of people, when they have, post-trauma reactions, it's like, oh, deflating. Don't look too happy. It's like that. And we live like that. We're afraid that if we're too happy, somebody else, it might be insensitive to somebody else who's struggling. And that, I think it's great to be sensitive. I do. I don't think you have to go and celebrate. What happened? Oh, everything went wrong today? Guess what happened to me? Everything went right. I won the lottery. That's falsely living large. Do you see the difference? But don't falsely live small and think that's better. The center will smile just right at the right moment and, let the smile go sometimes. Not the happiness, the smile, because that's what's the greatest good in the moment. If I need to always smile, if I need to always frown, maybe it's coming from a compulsion rather than a true beingness. So we've got to recognize it's time to be truly simple and clean and clear and humble. For me, most of my life, and I've said this many times, but I recommend it to people to consider, there's not just a you, we're a we. And so in my body, if there's an organ that's got a lack of water to it, the body's going to say, we'll just draw some water from somewhere else and put it there. It's chi. If an organ says there's a lack of chi in this meridian, that's the way our energy systems work. It's going to try to tap into another meridian that's excessive and draw that energy to that meridian. It's kind of a beautiful ecosystem. It's an ecosystem of balance, equilibrium, homeostasis. It's beautiful. But we're supposed to be living that way too, in all regards. To be able to realize humility means I'm clear. I mean, I don't have to worry. I don't have to be afraid. There's this beautiful equilibrium. And generally, you stay kind of maybe steady upwards, but you stay high. You don't go overly high, falsely high, and nor falsely crashing. Like a spiritual bipolar experience. I'm so spiritual, man, everything makes me upset. Oh, wait, now it doesn't because I just read a prosperity book. God, it didn't work. Boom. And so that's still living duality. And if you can bear with me just a moment more, man, it's even when people say, we're going to fight for equal rights, you're actually speaking duality. But we have to fight to bring equal rights. No. I've said this, I think the last week or two, this one comment, but there's not caring about other people and treating them as equals, whether it's gender, race, or whatever. Then there's the fighting for it. That's just another polarity. In the center, there's something else, which is this. I can't imagine anybody not being equal. I can't even imagine. I don't have to let it happen nor fight to keep it from happening. I can't even know what that looks like. It doesn't make any sense. Going back to the simplicity of a child, because you take a couple of 1-year-olds and you let them play on a blanket or whatever. They don't go, well, hold it. The black children will go and play on this side of the blanket, the white children on that, the Native Americans over there. They don't do that. They don't go, my family has more money than yours when they're 6 months old. They don't do that. So we're just needing to get back to that place where we're not caught. And if you get caught in it, it's because it's triggering something in you. If you decide to be one of the people fighting for it, there's a reason. You have unhealed wounds. And if you're one of the ones that'll enable it and trample on people and judge by race or whatever gender, you're still unhealed. You have stuff going on. So be careful not to get too impressed by people who talk the talk but don't walk the walk. People who want to talk the whole bit of the concepts of equality. I know it sounds good, but it's not real. When we evolve there's a point as in our evolution, there's a point we reach where we realize, I don't feel like I have to say that much more. I seem to complain about stuff less. I seem to say, well, we've got to fight to show them. you feel centered more and more. And that's what we're all looking for. An evolved person doesn't need to be heard. I'm glad if you do hear me, but if you don't, and I get upset by it, it means I have an issue, not just you. If you can't hear me, it's because you have an issue. But if I'm upset about your issue, it's because I've got an issue. So you just do what you can. That's what some of those sayings are, even in the Christian scriptures where Jesus is saying, you share what you share. If they don't hear you, just shake the dust off your shoes and leave that town. Well, that's a simple statement. Let's pretend Jesus didn't say anything else. He was wise. He was born. We knew this guy was Christed or spiritual, and he only shared one sentence. Share the truth as you know it. And if people can't hear it, if you're connected to God, I don't mean your ego version of truth, capital T. If you are in your center and you're connected and you share, and it's going to be loving and joyous and inspiring, whatever you share instead of judgmental and rude. If you know you're sharing the truth and people cannot hear you, they spit on you, they're comment, rude comments to you or whatever, reject you. Jesus says that one thing. He says, then just step out, shake the dust off your sandals and walk. Shake the dust off your sandals, a metaphor of don't even let a speck of dust from that experience cling to you. Walk. Oh, I can't because they didn't hear me. They were mean to me. They victimized me, They never listened to me. And I guess, low self-worth. Now we're letting habits form us. External things are deciding my center and my happiness. That's actually codependence at the very least. Completely messed up at the greatest, It's just completely unhealthy. So we learn, can you do that? If you're hearing me say, go and preach to people self-righteously, and if they don't hear you, well, I'll just shake the dust off of you people here at Safeway and go on my way because you didn't let me preach to you in the hall, in the aisles. Aisle 6, cereal aisle. I was trying to convert people. No, you're probably in the wrong. And they should go shake the dust off from you. I'm talking not about that kind of behavior. I'm talking about there's a moment, it's a friend, she's struggling again, and you have something that could help her. Such as, have you considered a 12-step group? Oh, I don't believe in any of that. I don't mean you should walk away right then. You can say, well, let me just share something. I can tell you it's helped me. So let me just, you mind if it's 2 minutes of a personal, and you share. If what we do or say ever causes more harm than good, causes people to get triggered, tempts them to get enraged, you probably should walk away. It's not your fault. Unless you're saying something rude. It's not your fault. When you say, consider the program, and they get upset, do you think they're upset about you saying that? They're upset because they don't want to know. They don't want to know that they have an issue or an addiction. Who does? Do people wake up daily going, I wonder what issue I could have exposed today so that I could work on it in an ongoing process? That's not typical for people. People instead go, I'm starting to sense I have an issue. I better start drinking more so I don't notice it. Or whatever else we do for, getting sidetracked or whatever. So as I'm coming to a close, I've heard this and seen this many times, especially in this kind of a town, but I've seen it and heard it many times. People, the enabling people being falsely small. If you do that, it means you're part of that consciousness. You're part of that addiction somehow, and you have your own lessons. Or the falsely large. Don't let people that are falsely large intimidate you. They're just lying to themselves and everyone else, looking strong, and so on. When you're a child, like I was a child, I could have said, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to run away from home. And I might have created worse situations. So I'm fine that I didn't do that. But if you're a child, you can't as easily, seemingly, you can't step away. You can't, 5-year-old going, this doesn't work for me. I'm sensing that there's a lot of codependence and enabling. A lot of secrets in this household. I think I'm going to go out on my own. It could conceivably be dangerous. So God bless you if you didn't know what to do when you're a child and all that, fine. But you're not a child, most of us in this room, anymore. So the excuses go out the door. You now have to come up and step up. Now you're going to get tempted to say, oh, but it's been too many years. What you don't complete now, you're going to come back and do later. I mean, seriously, is that our affirmation? I'm going to faithfully, lovingly, clearly, joyously be able to affirm. I've got some relationship stuff going on, a lot of unhealthiness, abusiveness, control trips, and codependence, but I don't really want to work on it. I think I'm going to save that for next time. I think you'd need therapy if you could actually say that kind of a thing, because that doesn't sound sane at all. And yet, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with reincarnating, but there are things you don't know you have to deal with that you're probably going to come back and have to work on. That's possible. That's fine. I'm talking about when you can actually look forward to putting aside lessons you're here to work on today. Well, how do you know, Michael? How do you know I'm supposed to work on them today? Maybe I'm meant to be. No, if they're happening today, you're probably supposed to be working on them. That's that clarity you can have with people. And some are going to get annoyed that you said it. So, say it gently, say it lovingly, say it firmly, say it strongly, whatever feels inspired in any given moment. But be careful and do something. Step up. You run a place like this, we've had times when, people will just, it's great to come here and everybody's so loving. And yeah, they say that for a day. And then I remember we've had, years ago, we had some people that when their kids were here, we didn't have a children's program at the time, unfortunately. And they would, you had them relieving themselves in the pond there and trampling things, ripping down chimes. And we said, that's not okay. Oh, well, you're not very unconditionally loving. The children, they're just being children. Let them be children at your place then. Because it would be hypocrisy for us to tell folks that when they come here and they donate for a pond, that we're going to respect it. See, when they see it getting trampled on, they're not happy with us, nor would I be. So you step up and you say something, and people are going to try to guilt you into being more whatever. You know what they're trying to do? They're trying to get you to act falsely strong or enable their falsely large and small selves. They want you to enable them, because if you make them look at their children are out of control, you're the bad person. They don't want you to say that. They want you to keep enabling it so that they don't have to look at themselves, whether it's an addiction or whether it's their lives are out of control. So, that's why we started saying to people that sometimes are looking for donations, we say, no problem, we'd like to help somebody that's struggling, there's no problem. But we will say, all right, we have a policy. We want, first of all, you to meet with some chaplains so you can do some healing work on the topic of finances. Some of them, you would do that? Yes, for free. We're going to sit and we're going to work on you, do some tracking, and release that thing. God, thank you. Then we're going to ask them, and we'd like to talk to you about how to make some changes, maybe to teach you how to fish, the old story. We'd like to do some things to kind of teach you how to then move forward in a prosperous life. God, you guys are great. Thank you. When they do those two things, we will give them a donation if we can. But 9 out of 10 times, they say, mind your own business. I don't believe in prayer. I'm just running through town, so I'm hitting all the churches for money. So give it or don't give it to me. They actually told us, I don't want anybody praying with me. I don't even believe in that. They just want cash. We say, well, not here. And I know for some people that even that can sound harsh. I never said I cared about that. People's opinion that it's harsh. Don't sweat it. You stick to what you know to be the love of God. And if you have parameters in your life, hold them, guys. Be true to yourself. I don't care if it's homeless people or your own children, your parents. Learn, yes, when things resonate, no, when they don't. If they swing in this end of the pendulum or that end of the pendulum, as soon as you buy into it, you've gotten swung to the pendulum. And when you get swung to an extreme, you're in the world of duality, which is the world of loss, hate, fear. Right here in the center is everything we're looking for. My being is right here. So be true to yourself means your real self. Be true to yourself. You hear that used. And people are saying that, even that they're saying from an egoic place. Be true to your ego self. We should all need to be heard because we should all always lack something that we want other people to compensate us for, Really? Or, boom, right there. In my center, I found everything. I am everything. See? They push, they pull, the storms, they blow. Just right there. Nice and centered. Yoga, yoked to God, centered. It's quite beautiful. And I would have to say that I don't think it's a stagnant center. It moves a little right and a left, but it's in that column still. To thine own self be true doesn't mean to thine own ego self be true. It means to thine own divine self be true. How do I know how to find that divine self? Generally speaking, when you choose things that resonate with love, peace, joy, oneness, then those things are probably right. When you can say this decision I'm making resonates with love, peace, it's probably right. Because God is peace. So when you make a choice based on what nurtures peace, you're probably doing God's will. God's not thrown us into this universe just to be bounced around. You know, the ball on the roulette wheel, ping, 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 maybe, 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 maybe not. You know, that's not how God created us to be. God created us in its image. Whatever you think God to be, we're in its image, which means perfect and the state of love. When that's not happening, I'm just saying something's gone wrong. Well, maybe it's supposed to be. Maybe it's meant to be that way. That's spoken by somebody who doesn't know how they got there and would like to pass it off on a meant to be. You were never meant to be abused. If it's happened, it's okay. Sorry. Say no, and let's recreate a new life where you're not being abused. See? To say, oh, I guess it was meant to be, it means I don't want to look into this. I don't know how. I'm afraid to, and so on. But it's not God's will. So remember God's will, mankind's will. God's truth, man's truth. And man's truth is never right. So what most people say is going to come from ego because ego is so rampant on the planet. We've got to get back to the love and the truth of God. The truth of God is who you are, not something you find. I am the truth of God. Then be honest. I don't feel like it. That's true. Lowercase t. But the truth of God is on the other side of the false me, the lies of me, the false, strong, powerful, large, and the false, small, and weak, there's God. And in that, I'm really strong. So find that place. And then like physicians in the Middle Ages, the ones that were mystics, they could go into houses that had the plague and not worry about getting sick. Right? They just stepped up. The Mother Teresa's, I'm not saying, and if they would have gotten sick, that's a problem. I'm saying they didn't care either way, but notice that they didn't. It was Nostradamus who kind of introduced the idea. He wasn't just a mystic like a prophet. He was a physician. And he told these people in those ages during the plague, he told them, you need rose petals. They'll purify the place and you need to clean things and wash things. He's one of the physicians that went in to the plague. His own children and wife died from the plague. But he was out there in all the homes helping people. So you step up and say, the truth of God, in the truth of God, I'm immune. In the truth of God, like I spoke about somebody passing away recently, there was no fear in this person. And when they were, down to the last couple words I was sharing with them, I just said, so proud of you. I said, put in a good word for me. See, and that's a way to create a lightness. Put in a good word. And it's also good humility. And that sounds non-humble to even say that. But I'm saying it because it's good for us to laugh at ourselves. Put in a good word for me. That makes this person not see me as their teacher healer that's come to visit them in their poor dying moment. No. Hey, can you put in a good word for me? You see how that equaled us in that moment? Things like that. Walk the villages and bring the rose petals. Ask people, hey, I've had fundamental Christians, do the speech about how the New Age and spirituality and all that's of the devil, and and when they say we're going to pray for you because you're going to, I say thank you. That's great. I appreciate that. No, but we're going to pray for you. Thank you. They don't know what to do with that. What are you going to say? Please don't. It's beautiful. Humble is strong. Let's keep that in mind. Please take a few centering breaths. Set everything aside. Set all the fears, worries, concerns, set everything aside. When we center in prayer or meditation, it's all right if tears come. Sometimes that's the pain. Sometimes that's the pain coming out. And it's okay to humble ourselves. All of these things are fine when we enter, because there's so many things that seem to be between us and God itself. So when we center, sometimes that stuff starts surfacing for us to see it. But our goal, through the stuff and into God. When we decide to change our lives, it's going to happen. People will sometimes not like it, including ourselves. And sometimes it's like exorcising a demon. So let it come out in the form of tears, a sigh, whatever form. It's exorcising a demon when we decide to change our lives. So let the ego scream, "I'm melting," on its way out. Don't react. Don't enable it. Goodbye. Let it go. And then come to that place of there's no place like home. There's no place like home. Don't focus on the screams of the egos in yourself or anyone else. There's no place like home. So in this moment, I'm going to read a prayer. Some of you, the chaplains, will know this one. The prayer of St. Patrick. But we're going to let it be a meditation as we do so. Let it be empowering. Try to hear these words as though your soul is saying this. Your soul is affirming this. And you're hearing it on the out-breath of the affirmation and on the in-breath of the meditation. We affirm it in prayer and we breathe it in as a new reality. Actually believe that this is your new reality. I take for my sureties, I take for my strength and my beliefs the following. I call up the power of God to guide me. Feel it, believe it, know it. I'm calling the power of God to guide me. The might of God to uphold me. The wisdom of God to teach me. Know that we deserve that. All things come from God. All good and real things. The eye of God to watch over me. The word of God to give me speech. I just choose to let God be what inspires my words. The way of God to go before me and the shield of God to shelter me. Feel it, know it. Like saying to yourself, I'm committing myself to a new life. You can substitute the word God for Christ or vice versa, whatever you like. Call in the truth of God. Christ is with me. Christ before me. Christ within me. Christ at my right, Christ at my left. Christ in the heart of every person who thinks about me. In the mouth of every person who speaks of me. Christ in every eye that sees me. God in all things. I affirm this is possible and that it's happening now. Christ's presence, divine presence, pure love in my relations, pure love in every organ, pure divine presence in every meridian, pure light in every tear and every sigh. Everything about me releases the old with every exhale and draws in a new, higher presence with every next inhalation. I die daily and let go of the old and bring in the new. Christ's presence, pure light in every hair on my body. Every cell of my being vibrating the vibration of God. Vibrating the tone of God. Almost overwhelming, but in a good, joyous way. In a way that I'm vibrating so high, I can barely withstand wanting to sing. I can barely hold back wanting to move and dance, smile and laugh. My checking account and my wallet are full because I'm filled with God's presence. Abundance cannot be missing. It's impossible. I am abundant with the presence of God. Therefore, in every dime I have, it multiplies. My patience level filled with God. I am born again, a new self. The dying or dead, friendships, partnerships, jobs. Let the dead bury the dead, said Krishna, said Jesus and others. Let the dead bury the dead. Let those who are caught in the illusion deal with their illusions. But for me, as one Old Testament Torah teacher said, let others do as they may, but as for me and mine, I will serve the living God. I'm here to be alive. My teeth, my lips, my eyes are sparkling with the presence of God. God inside, God outside. Every organ, I'm affirming. Every organ, be still, organs. Every emotion, be still and know I am God. Meaning the I am presence of God is here. Bow before the Lord. Bow your toxins out of my system and then rise to a new level of being. Bow the ego self down and rise in the souls, spirits we were created to be. Feel it. It's a dance. Like the greatest composition and the greatest art expression. The whole universe around is coming to life. Imagine all the planets coming to life more and more in every solar system. Every star sparkling even brighter. Every nebula. Everything alive. Quasars and people. Every person once perceived as alone, sad, starving on this planet throughout all time. Let's see them receiving spiritual food somehow and seeing a little smile on their face, knowing that they're no longer buying the illusion that if they don't have something externally, it affects them internally. See them filled. God in you, God in me, God in every race. We don't have to fight for it. It is that way. God in every race, in every gender. God in the voice of every singer and the music of every musician. God in every chaplain, in every mom, dad. God, presence, intuition, love. And so it is. Let's just relax for a second. A couple of nice deep breaths. Centered breaths. Okay. Take our time to reintegrate. Good. And do me a favor. Take the hands of the people next to you if you can. It could be behind you too, Linda May. Good. Just the hands for a moment. The reason I said that is there's a few people, some crying and some not, but they're really feeling something happening as we did this work, obviously. But some folks are feeling really sensitive about it and they could use some support. So be that for them, just for a moment. We're filled with so much love and patience. We have all the time in the world to share that with each other. We can't even imagine leaving anybody starving for that and leaving this room. It doesn't make any sense. So let's just hold that presence and give thanks. If you're struggling in any way, for any reason, please hear our hearts. We love you. Sorry for the challenge. Sorry for whatever has happened. Very challenging things can happen on this planet. The good news is the God in you was never affected by any of it. And as we learn to identify with the God self, all the effects will start to disappear. It's true. Those people, those events, they have no power over you whatsoever. None. But that which we give it. And today we're learning no longer needing to give that. A little gentle squeeze of the hand. And for you watching online too, please feel this. Please feel your hand and squeeze your own hand and feel us holding your hand and giving it a nice squeeze of thank you. Good. And with that squeeze, yes, some strength too.